to get underway. I will open the meeting and thank you all for coming. As I was getting ready this morning, it's like the first day of school for the board. I know you've been here on campus for 3 or 4 weeks now, but it's our first meeting back for the 21-22 school year, and we're glad to be here on a beautiful morning on the trail. Before we get started, I would like to welcome a couple of new faces around the table. We have Mr. John Hammonds, who is our interim board counsel, and you'll hear more about him later in the Personnel Compensation Committee report. And we also have a new student, what's it called? I'm sorry, the Student Faculty Senate. Student Senate President, Mr. Brent Olsen, who I met before lunch, and he's with us here today in place of Haley Ward, and he'll be here all this academic year, and we'll hear from him later. So we need to start with approval of the minutes, which you all got in your packet that was emailed out, and we'll need a motion. Any corrections or additions to that, and if not, a motion to approve them. Governor Morgan moved to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
A second by Governor Oplotnik, so the minutes then are approved of the last meeting. We'll move right into our president's report from Dr. Van Galen as he begins, well, he's already begun, but for us, begins his second year with us.
Thank you, Governor Hershaway. I know that the board has a set of written reports from the members of President's Cabinet. On the first page of my report, it is entitled Welcome Back Lions. So I want to thank everyone for the many efforts of our faculty and staff. We enjoyed a very successful beginning to the fall semester. Campus was particularly vibrant with the return of face-to-face classes and then also some of the traditional welcome back activities. Included in my report are some images from several of the welcome back activities, and I know that Dr. Julie Wingert will highlight others in a few minutes. But here are a few highlights from the kickoff of the fall semester. During the first 2 days of classes, many of our faculty and staff personally greeted students around campus. It's a great Missouri Southern tradition. We offered them directions to class, and some students were on campus an hour before their first class, so the high achievers, if you will, but also some snacks and an encouraging word. It really sent a great message to our students that we are happy to have you here at Missouri Southern and that we want you to succeed. Incoming freshman students in the Yours to Lose program were recognized at a green coat ceremony held in Billingsley Student Center on August 14th. Students were fitted with a green coat, symbolizing their journey to a white coat when they begin medical school. Now in its 4th year, this unique partnership with Kansas City University provides students with a rigorous 3-year pathway to medical school at KCU. I recently met with KCU President Mark Hahn, and it's very clear that both institutions see great value in this partnership and look forward to additional collaboration in the future. On Wednesday of the first week of classes, Community Day on the Oval welcomed businesses and nonprofits to campus to connect with students, faculty, and staff. We were thrilled with having 120 vendors participate, which serves as a great reminder of the robust relationship that exists between MSSU and our region. Also, as you learned about at today's luncheon, there is a special relationship between Missouri Southern and Japan. Not only are we learning about Japan as part of the themed semester program, we've enjoyed productive relationships with Japan for decades. Looking forward again, as you learn, the National Collegiate Network Partnership holds great promise to bring additional students from Japan to Missouri Southern to further their education and to enrich our campus. Imagine the opportunities when, for example, one of our students from Granby, Mount Vernon, or Columbus brings their roommate or classmate from Japan to their home for a weekend visit. In my view, the friendships developed, the new understandings gained through such experiences are one of the most impactful aspects of living out one of our university's values, global perspectives. This fall, we look forward to conducting our first three green and gold tours, in which we take Missouri Southern on the road to communities in our region. Initial locations selected in collaboration with the Offices of Admissions, Alumni and Development include Monette, Nevada, and Seneca. The goal is to connect with prospective students, local business leaders, Lion alumni, and the broader community. We really look forward to some great events. Finally, I note that a listing of homecoming activities has been provided to each board member. It's not an exhaustive list. There are many things going on campus during homecoming week, but we certainly invite you to participate as you are able. With thanks to the Board of Governors for their ongoing leadership and support of the university, Governor Hirschway, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Van Galen. Are there any questions right now of Dr. Van Galen before we move into the individual reports? Any questions? Okay, thank you. It was informative. We will move then to our Executive Vice President, Dr. Hodson, and hear from him.
Thank you very much. Just a few highlights from my written report. You'll note that we had a very strong fundraising year in fiscal year 21, which ended on June 30th. We saw a 6% increase in total giving to the Missouri Southern Foundation, and so that's very encouraging, particularly in what was a COVID year that made personal visits and some solicitations very challenging. At the second paragraph speaks to our current efforts to recruit a fundraising campaign consultant. We sent out RFPs to 14 national firms. We received responses from 11 of those firms, and the Philanthropy Committee of the Missouri Southern Foundation is in the process of reviewing and scoring those RFPs to determine who should be invited on campus for interviews in October. On the second page, there's a brief mention of a new committee for the foundation, the Community Engagement Committee. This is being chaired by Terry Wachter, who's very well known here in Joplin. The Community Engagement Committee's responsibility is to create and promote high-impact community engagement strategies that advance both the university and the foundation, so we're looking forward to exciting work from that committee. It is comprised half of Missouri Southern Foundation board members and half of community members that were selected for their prominence and engagement and visibility in the community. So hopefully that will yield good results both for the foundation and for Missouri Southern. And then finally, at the bottom you can see that we also had a very good year with our new outsourced chief investment officer, FEG. This was their first full year managing the foundation's portfolio. And we certainly don't expect these kind of results every year, but you can see that they brought in a 27.8% return on the foundation's portfolio. There's a great illustration there that points out that on top of what we spend, so for example, if you have an endowment that's a scholarship, we spend 4% of a 3-year rolling average on the scholarship recipient. We have the management fee, and then we also offset for inflation, so that was 7.15%. The remaining 20% roughly goes back into the endowment to offset for years when we may have had a negative return or didn't quite hit the 7% threshold, and so that 20% is put back to work in the corpus of the endowment. So a very good year on the investment perspective as well. That's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Hodson. Are there any, Governor Gibson?
I have a couple questions. Brad, on the RFPs for the fundraising campaign, are you generally satisfied with the responses that you got?
Yeah, there are firms that have been around a long time and are very well known, and a couple I've worked with at previous institutions, and we receive very good proposals from them. What it's going to come down to is it's important to know we're not hiring anyone to help us fundraise. We're doing a feasibility study for the campaign, so they will take our campaign priorities that the institution has identified. They will take them to some of our lead donors, vet those priorities, and get a sense of which of those projects are of the highest interest to our donors, and then second, what should the campaign goal be based on those. So that is what we're asking of them, and there are some very good proposals in that 11. I would say 4 of the 11 are very strong.
Great. And can you tell us who's on the philanthropy committee of the foundation?
Yes, that is chaired by Beverly Block, and I'm just going to rattle off a few names that I can think of off the top of my head. Dolores Honey, Dot Wilcoxon, Chris Dumm,
You've gone far enough.
Okay, good folks, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Brad, can you tell me, is that committee, are those ideas, are they gonna be from the retreat that the college, the university had earlier this year and those ideas came out?
Yes, so that was, the Board of Governors participated in a retreat where we generated ideas. There's been a number of those within the campus community and external constituents to identify some funding opportunities. Dr. Van Galen, would you say perhaps we have 18, 19 total opportunities to vet?
Yeah, I think that's right. We have a pretty extensive list, and, you know, as we've talked about, the feasibility study will enable us to see which of those priorities has significant major gift support, and so after that process, I think we'd envision going from that larger number to a more focused list.
Which will then inform what the campaign goal should be. One of the traps that institutions often fall into, they see a peer institution that raised $500 million, well, let's do 550. Well, do you have the capacity, do you have the projects,
Right.
do you have the momentum? And so that's what the feasibility study will inform for us.
What's realistic for us?
And Brett, how long will that feasibility study last?
Just a few months. A lot of the
Okay.
proposals that I went through and reviewed and scored have talked about 6 to 8 months. So we should be in the spring ready to formulate a campaign plan and launch as soon thereafter as possible. So it's not a long horizon for the feasibility study.
Great, thank you.
Anything else from Dr. Hodson?
Thank you.
I might just inform the board, at Dr. Hodson and the foundation president, Sally Beard's invitation, I've been able to attend the last 2 foundation meetings as a guest, and they've been very informative, and I am excited every time I come out of one. There's a table full, a board full of active, engaged, excited about Missouri Southern people and community leaders from all walks, and it was good to be invited to the meeting and see firsthand their interactions, and they're beginning their strategic planning cycle separate from ours, and there are lots of good ideas, and I appreciate that. Thank you, and let the board know and President Beard know how much we do appreciate that invitation and the work they do for us.
Thank you, I will.
Okay, next we will hear from our interim provost and VP for Academic Affairs, Ms. Lorinda Hackett.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to represent academic affairs this afternoon. The first item on my report, I wanted to introduce you to our outstanding teachers and outstanding advisors, or advisor rather. These individuals were selected as recipients of Outstanding Teacher and Advisor Awards initiated through student nominations. And so I've included the names and pictures. We had 2 outstanding teachers recognized and nominated by students this year. Dr. Otto Borcher in our Computer Information Sciences Department, Dr. Cliff Tolliver, Professor of English, and then from Teacher Education, Miss Jenny Wieselmeyer. So you can see the comments the students included as one aspect in the nomination process. I think it's good for you to see the examples of those folks that were selected for those outstanding teacher and advisor positions. Secondly, the Plaster College of Business AA accreditation is ongoing. They've hit benchmark points of having the self-evaluation report accepted. It's in progress though, as the final reporting and any full decisions will be made in February of 2023. But I wanted to provide an update on that process as the Placer College of Business really works through a very arduous accreditation system. So the update is there for with you. You can read the additional details. This sewer shed project is something that's good. It's post-lunch, perhaps. I'll let you infer details from there. What I would say, besides maybe the obvious details, is this is a really interesting project. We have a student intern in the Environmental Health and Safety Program, And this is a really great example of where student engagement cross-sects with authentic life experiences. And in light of COVID and some of the research that's being done there, I thought you might enjoy seeing something that's taking place in our science areas in regard to collecting samples from the manhole across the street and looking at the results as it applies to our COVID situation. But I'll say no more. Wanted to offer up my congratulations to our radiology program. Their on-site accreditation visit was last spring, 2021, and the Joint Committee reviewed all of the documents and updated documents that were submitted once the on-site review had occurred, and JCERT awarded full accreditation to our radiology department for the next 8 years. So congratulations to Alan Shiska, the program director and department chair, as well as Greg Soriano, the one of two, the second full-time faculty in that department. So a job well done. They've maintained a flawless accreditation record for the past 2 decades. The last item on my report, if you actually turn to page 8, I wanted to introduce you to 3 of our Reynolds Hall residents from top to bottom in terrarium world. I'd like to introduce you to Ralphie, our blue-tongued skink, indigenous to places like Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia. The second terrarium is a more native 3-toed box turtle, and the last is our California king snake. Unfortunately, they're all observing COVID protocol, and so you really can't detect them. You would have to actually visit Reynolds Hall to see the multiple terrariums that Dr. David Penning has prepared with assistance from the Missouri Conservation Department to, again, the cross-section of student engagement and real-life, real-world experiences has provided a greener space in our Reynolds Hall science building, and they've crafted some really neat terrariums and a lot of really unique animals from around the world, which you can read the descriptions there because I can't pronounce all of the names. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Questions from Ms. Hackett at this time about academic affairs and her report? No questions. We'll move right along then to our interim VP for Student Affairs, Dr. Julie Winger.
Thank you, Governor Hirschaway. My report highlights many of the welcoming activities that Dr. Van Galen alluded to earlier. Student Affairs hosted a variety of programming designed to both welcome our students to campus and help us get students engaged and develop that sense of belonging that's so critical for retention and graduation purposes. We welcomed over 700 students into our residence life facilities, and Greek Life always helps every year, help all of our new students move into the dorm, so that was a great time for them. And then over that time frame, they also had some outdoor water games activities. Student activities and Greek Life hosted a MOSO social, movies, big prize bingo, and lots of other fun ways for students to mingle and win some prizes. We offered Campus Craze, which consisted of about 30 clubs and organizations that were available for students to get an idea of how they could become more involved in their education here at Southern. We were excited to have Kellen Cox, a former graduate, former football student athlete here, serve as the keynote speaker for our convocation ceremony this fall. Students receive medallions with a green lanyard that they then turn in after they've completed, when they're getting ready for commencement, they get a gold lanyard to cross the stage at commencement. Welcome Week was fun as well. We had our 19th annual Welcome Back picnic out on the Oval. We also had an Operation Glow Foam party, which apparently was very popular. You all met some of the Fresh Ideas staff today, our head chef and some others. Our former former head chef had started something called Nosh Nation, which are monotony breakers over at the Maze Dining Hall. For anyone interested, they have perfected their gravy fountain and many other fountains of interest. So that's just a way that they break up the monotony of what's served every day over at our dining hall. On the schedule, they're also offering many activities, including a seafood boil and a make-your-own cookie dough cone. As follow-up to previous reports, our educational talent search did obtain another 5-year grant cycle for that program, so that's very exciting. They serve grades 6 through 12, sorry. They help those students with advising, test prep, career exploration, and the like. So we're excited that that was received for the maximum cycle for that grant. And that concludes my report. I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Wingert about?
I've got one that I just have to ask.
Okay, Governor Elliott,
I apologize.
please, don't apologize.
Were they able, on the Nosh Nation, were they able to master the art of getting sausage gravy to go through the fountain?
That was a fail.
So many have tried. Thank you.
The board's voice of experience. Thank you, Dr. Wingert. We will next hear from our VP for Business Affairs, Mr. Youst.
Thank you, Governor Herschelway. It's nice to report that we have a couple projects that are completed. Keep it down a little bit here. Residence Hall is complete, so they're all occupied and enjoying the luxury of the new Residence Hall, the Lion Village. And finally, after 9 years, and those of you that were present this morning, I really appreciate you coming out for the official ribbon cutting this morning. The trail project with the city of Joplin is finally complete. It's a nice feeling. But there are other projects on campus that are ramping up in earnest. First of all is the campus improvements. If you've been on our campus the last couple of weeks and have been around the Oval or the parking lot, you'll have noticed a lot of construction going on, all of which is being funded by the Federal Budget Stabilization Funds. If you recall, we received $2.1 million to be used for those kind of projects, and so we are seizing the moment. There's a pedestrian safety in the main parking lot. We're going to raise some walking mediums to be safe for the students. You'll notice out there right now, they've already cut that. If you drive by from Newman Road and look towards the campus, you'll see a direct line from the tunnel to the entrance to the campus across the bridge. It's really nice to see. We will be replacing the street in the future, probably around November, if all things go according to plan and we don't have any extensive rain. And then we'll do pavers where the crosswalks are so that we don't have to keep painting that. There'll be a distinguishing between the street and the crosswalk will be pavers, so it'll be easy to note where they are. We're improving the safety features at the tunnel that goes under Newman Road. We do not own the tunnel, but we can improve the tunnel. And we're doing so with graphics, we're doing so with lighting and drainage issues, so it'll be much improved. We heard that that was one of the main issues for the students that they would like to have remedied, and we're going to try to do that. And finally, on the Oval itself, a lot of new sidewalks, lighting, landscaping, entrances to several buildings will be revamped. So right now, there's a lot of closures on sidewalks. There's a lot of detours and bypasses, but that's all temporary. And hopefully in the next coming months, those will be back open and it'll be a much improved Oval. Hopefully all of that will be, knock on wood if I had any, but hopefully all of that will be done by February. That's the plan. We'll see. And finally, the last project is Tpac. That's one of those projects that's been on the back burner for a long time. And if you recall, we received some state funding to the tune of $2.5 million. And the engineering specs have been prepared. Those should be on the street either this week or next week. And we'll have the results back from contractors and make a selection. And that project will begin in earnest in the next month or two. Does anybody have any questions? Governor Gibson.
Yeah, so you've got kind of a disclaimer on the Tpac there.
Yeah, I was going right to that.
Well,
myself.
depends on the product, how long it's gonna take to get here. I'm not gonna pull a trail project when we commence this thing, that it's gonna be done by the next few months from there. We're gonna start that in earnest and get it done as soon as possible.
I guess what I was looking at was, you know, $2.5 million in direct funding, but I guess I'm reading between the lines that construction costs have increased. Are you concerned about the $2.5 million being sufficient?
I'm concerned about $2.5 million doing all the projects we would like to do in
Okay.
Tpac. The
Okay.
main project that we need to get done is to make it structurally sound so
Yeah.
we can reopen it. We also would like to replace the seats, the carpet, those kind of things, and we'll just have to see how far the dollars go.
Okay, so you may have to do sort of a cafeteria style. Yeah, I get it. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I was just curious about the residence halls. How is our occupancy in the new ones and the other ones? And did we close anything down for repair?
We did close some down. I'll let Dr. Winger discuss that.
Sure, we have closed Blaine and McCormick and a couple of apartment complexes down for some remodeling. Other than that, Lion Village is full, quads are full, East Hall, we're pretty much at what we could hold that's open right now.
We decided to seize the moment and shut down a couple of those facilities and do some renovation with the funding that we received from the bond issue back in the day. We have, if you recall, we have an additional $3 million, and so we're going to renovate Blaine and McCormick to hopefully that will invigorate those facilities and attract students to that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anything else for Mr.
Yeah, I want to go back to Tpac, sorry, Rob.
It's okay.
On the highest priority, you know, structural soundness for that, what percentage of that 2.5 million appropriation do you think will take that part of it? You know, the part we just absolutely have to get done to make sure it's safe, you know, for usage again.
A majority of it will take that, but, you know, depending on the steel prices, what I keep hearing.
Right.
And the lead time on getting that in. So
Okay,
the majority will be for the structural
Okay.
soundness.
all right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, if nothing else, there's another new face around the table that I forgot to introduce, and that is our new Director of Athletics, Mr. Rob Mallory, and I met him previously, maybe that's why he didn't seem new to me, but welcome, and we'll now hear his report.
Thank you, Governor Hirschway. Allow me to start by just saying how grateful I am to be here at Missouri Southern and here at my first Board of Governors meetings. I'll start my report from a national perspective, the topic of name, image, and likeness, or NIL, as we commonly refer to it. On July 1st, the NCAA removed restrictions on NIL-related activities, which allows student athletes to now earn compensation from those activities, such as third-party endorsements, personal appearances, social media activity, and the like. The NCAA interim guidance was clear that this is not to be pay for play, and that this is not to be used as a recruiting inducement. That is about as far as their guidance went. They are offering no interpretive assistance and have basically instructed institutions that if you have a state law related to NIL, follow it. If you don't, create a policy and follow that. Here in Missouri, we do have a state law that went into effect on August 28th. The highlights of that are basically that we cannot deny or prevent NIL opportunities for student athletes, nor penalize student athletes for that activity. Student athlete NIL activities cannot conflict with existing institutional contracts or partnerships. Student athletes must disclose agreements in advance of being compensated for activities, and institutions must conduct financial development education for student athletes annually. We've developed an internal policy here on campus. Our Director of Athletic Compliance, Amanda Schmelzer, took the lead on that. And that kind of outlines how both the NCAA interim guidance and Missouri state law apply here at Missouri Southern. The long-term goal for the NCAA with regard to NIL is for federal legislation that would supersede any state law and put all NCAA member institutions kind of back on a level playing field. COVID-19 continues to impact athletics across the country. Different this year, there are no mandates from the NCAA Medical Advisory Group or Board of Governors. The NCAA Medical Advisory Group has shifted their guidance away from sport-specific guidance toward institutions making decisions based on information at a local level, with a focus on vaccination rates and the level of community spread. The MIAA, and kind of following in line with the NCAA, did not establish conference-wide protocols for things such as COVID-19 testing for fall sports, and left it to the institutions to make that determination on their own. Upcoming, we will be hosting the NCAA Cross Country Regional for both men's and women's on November 6th at the Tom Rutledge Cross Country course. That's the first of 4 years consecutively that we will host that, and that 4-year run includes the NCAA National Championship in November of 2023. And then lastly, in an effort to enhance our student-athlete development programming and to reach student-athletes where they are, the athletic department will be partnering with Game Plan, which is a student-athlete education platform. This is an app-based platform, 5 to 7 minute educational modules and lessons on your smartphone in critical areas such as mental health, professional and career development, diversity, equity, inclusion, and much more. We feel this is an efficient and effective way for us to meet some educational requirements in place, such as sexual violence prevention and the financial development education requirements I mentioned earlier. And it creates additional opportunities for the athletic department to partner with other areas of campus, such as ACTS, Career Services, and the Alumni Association. That concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Mallory? Mr. Haley?
In your game plan partnership and those educational opportunities, are those scheduled throughout the semester? Can they do them at will? Are they mandated? How will that play out for the student athletes?
It's fully customizable, so we will, from that suite of educational modules, we will determine the ones that we feel should be required. Some of those things like sexual violence prevention, which is an NCAA requirement, financial development, which is now a state requirement for NIL, and anything else that we feel like should be mandated. And then from there, different coaches could select different topics that they feel like their student athletes within their program should participate in, and then the rest will be available kind of on an at-will basis.
Okay. One other quick question on fall sports, and you said the NCAA did not mandate testing, and we could set our own. What is our testing philosophy for the fall?
So we have worked with the Student Health Center to develop protocols for fall sports. At this time, we are testing non-vaccinated student athletes that are in competition season twice per week. We're evaluating that as the situation around us continues to evolve.
Okay.
I have a question, just as a matter of curiosity, about this opportunity to host the cross-country championships for 4 years. I know our on-campus media has always done a great job of televising and publicizing and live streaming those, but is it anticipated that there'll be more outside of the region, or, well, it wouldn't be for the regional, but press come in, and I guess you've structured all that, but what do you expect?
Yeah, certainly for the national championship event in 2023, I would expect that we would get national coverage just because of, we'll be getting coast-to-coast participation from institutions.
That's a good opportunity for the city too. Okay, are there any other questions for Mr. Mallory?
Rob, and I don't know, I don't particularly expect an answer on this today. I think I want to plant a seed, for a question. With the number of student athletes that we have on campus, I guess from maybe after you've had a little more time underneath your belt, do we have enough educational support for our student athletes to help them where we can retain those students as far as tutoring goes, directly through the athletic department. I know we have tutoring programs available campus-wide, but from your experience at, prior institution, are we adequate? And this can be a future question, I don't expect an answer today, but are we adequate in that area?
Well, I mean, observationally, I would think, I guess the way I would put it is I think we're adequate, but we could always do better. We have partnered with the Student Success Center. We've had them come to one of our all-staff meetings and present to all of our coaches about the resources available for student athletes on campus. We are currently conducting study table twice a week in the North End Zone facility, and the athletic department has hired, or is in the process of hiring, a couple tutors through the Student Success Center in writing and math to be present during those sessions. So we're trying to be proactive in making sure that we're doing everything that we can from an academic support standpoint. But I do think that COVID creates some issues there. There's some spatial issues in how many students can be in the Student Success Center areas at one time that's limiting us a little bit right now, but we're trying to supplement that through some initiatives through the athletic department.
How many total student athletes we have on campus right now?
Just under 400 unique.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To tag on Governor Elliott's question, and this isn't for today, but just for future thought, it might be interesting to see along those lines how our athletic retention rates compare over time to our peer institutions, if that information's available for some future meeting.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Mallory? Hearing none, we will move to our treasurer, Ms. Ice. And don't let me forget, this is one area we will need after she gives her report, and you have an opportunity to ask questions. I will ask for a motion to approve her reports.
Thank you and good afternoon. Well, before we begin on the August 31 financial statements, I want to talk a little bit about how we finished the FY21 year and talk a little bit about the audit. BKD was on campus the week of June 21st, and they worked on the student financial aid, and they did finance walkthroughs during that time. We're still working with them, providing information and working on different reports. One piece that delayed the audit last year was the federal compliance supplement, and I am pleased to announce that that has come out timely, and they are going to be able to provide us that information to be able to come and do the review of the HERF or CARES funding. Those are large, significant dollars. Obviously, they have to be reviewed as part of our audit. We are looking for them to return to campus sometime the week of September 20th to do that review. And we anticipate being able to present the entire full audit at the November 12th meeting versus a short form and a long form in two separate settings. So very excited about that. I know everyone's always interested in how we ended the year in cash. And so we ended FY21 with $12.9 million. This is about $1 million increase over FY20, but please bear in mind that had significant HERF funding in there for both students and for the institution. And that particular number does not include the $6 million that we received at the very end of June. That was the HERF2 funding that came in at the very end of the year, and that is not included in that 12.9. Moving on to August 31 financial statements, and we look at the cash graph, that amount is showing $17.4 million, and now the $6 million of that HERF funding is in the 17.4. It moved from restricted to unrestricted as we cross fiscal years. When we look at the statement of net position, we have total assets of $196 million. When we look at that statement, there is a big increase for accounts payable, and that's $3.3 million. And I'll mention this a couple of times on the financial statements. A lot of this has to do with timing of financial aid disbursement. In the current year, it was posted in August, but paid out to students in September. Last year, it posted and paid out to students in September. So when we cross that, you see a lot of that activity on the financial statements. So the AP of a little over $3 million, a big piece of that is just refunds waiting to post a couple days later in the first part of September. I also wanted to note that notes payable shows an increase from the prior year of a little over $8 million. This is a partial allocation for our JCI energy savings contract that we've talked to you about and will provide savings across campus on some of our utilities. So that gives us total liabilities of $138 million and gives us net position of $58 million. The next statement we take a look at is total operating revenues, and we see a decrease of $2.4 million over the prior year, and that is due to some decline in enrollment, but we also had a tuition increase. Total operating expenses show an increase of $7.7 million, and of course $7 million of that again is the scholarships and the timing between the 2 years. Non-operating revenues shows an increase of $2.6 million. Pleased to announce that that shows a little over $900,000 in additional state appropriations that we are receiving in the current year. So the current year shows an increase of $7.4 million, and the prior year had an increase of 14.9. So between the 2 years, there is a decrease from the prior year of $7.5 million. Wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of other things going on, which we'll talk about later in this meeting. We've been working on a bond refunding, and within the bond refunding, a piece of that is we will be making our annual bond payment of about $3.5 million on Monday, and we'll talk a little more about that later in the meeting. We are also working with athletics on the NCAA reports that are due, and this is also the year that the NCAA agreed upon procedures, which is basically athletics audit that happens every 3 years, and that will commence starting sometime next month. I'll answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Ice about her reports? And if there are no questions, then I would entertain a motion to approve them. I have a motion by Governor Gibson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Governor Oplotnik. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, next is our Faculty Senate President, Dr. David Locker.
But in this case, we won't be meeting until this coming Monday, which means the Executive Council has had to do a lot of things electronically and by email that we normally would have just simply taken care of at our meeting because we need to get, need to get the ball rolling. However, the ball is rolling, and we are still looking at the intellectual property policy is, it's not resolved and complete, but the process for resolving and completing, is that a fair way to say it? The process for resolving and completing is now in place. Our primary task on Monday will be to assign official faculty senate liaisons to all of the committees on campus that haven't already been done electronically in order to get those balls rolling as well. And there's a lot of, let's say, interest on campus about what's going on with COVID and masks and things like that, so we'll certainly have some discussion of that. But, you know, not to sound overly optimistic, but we're looking forward to hopefully a nice productive year for everyone.
Are there any questions for Dr. Locker? I would just comment, again, we talked about the handbook and academic affairs, and thank you to all the Faculty Senate for your participation in that process.
You're welcome.
Again, it's ongoing and it's a lot of work, I know.
Well, the handbook committee does the heavy lifting, but yeah, it all filters through us eventually, so.
Everybody takes a team. So thank to you and Ms. Hackett both. Are there any other questions for Dr. Locker? Now then, we hear from our Staff Senate President, Mr. Ofer.
Thank you very much. Not much going on with staff. Staff is excited to be back to campus for somewhat normal routine. Definitely excited to see all the improvements on campus. Staff welfare is always important, and that's why our Staff Welfare Committee meets twice a month to discuss things like compensation and morale. This year, the Staff Welfare and Community Service Committee has teamed together to create a fun week, so to speak, kind of let our hair down. Well, maybe not me let my hair down, but a spirit week from September 20th to the 25th, leading up to homecoming, and that theme is Decades of Southern Spirit. So this year, the theme days, we have different theme days for that week. I may or may not have been involved with these theme days, picking them, but Monday will be the 30s, 50s, dressed to the nines. Tuesdays, the 60s and 70s, groovy days. Wednesday is 80s, which was neon. Thursday is the 90s day, the Y2K fashion, bold prints, plaid, grunge. And then good old Friday is our green and gold spirit wear. We're also encouraging all departments to decorate their department as well as participate in the individual door contest. That concludes my report.
Well, thank you for the staff for those contributions to the culture, and that's exciting. I wrote them all down. That's exciting, and leading up to homecoming, and that is a positive impact. And we did go out to the trail this morning, and you were kindly showed us the way, and as Mr. Yost thanked everybody, but thanks to all the members of the staff that participated on that may not have been named in the speech, but I know it took a lot of staff coordination.
I
So
appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Ofer? Now, our new Student Senate President. I butchered it before, but he's our Student Senate President, Mr. Brent Olsen.
All right, thank you, Governor Hirschway, and thank you all for having me today. Just a brief thing about myself. I'm a senior, double majoring in management and finance over in the Placer College of Business. And I also serve as the treasurer for ODK, and I tutor over in the Student Success Center for business and writing classes. So I'm very involved in MSSU, and I like to talk to our students a lot. So this is just an excellent avenue for me to update you guys on what the students are seeing. And so with that, we had our first Student Senate meeting on Wednesday, just a couple days ago. So we really haven't gotten a lot rolling yet, but we do have a lot of great ideas. And I know last year we worked with Dr. Hodson on the Campus Developments Committee, and a lot of the stuff that the students have been bringing up was the crosswalk moving from the tunnel over, the tunnel itself, some improvements made on Webster, and then also the other crosswalks on campus. And I'm very happy to see that all of those are on the list or are actually currently being done. So with that, we've went ahead and moved forward to some more ideas from Student Senate to help retention and also to help recruitment. And some of those ideas that we had are refurbishing some of the items over in the Mays Student Life Center, the ping pong tables, the pool tables, get some new couches, new gaming systems and stuff like that. And just little things that we can do with our budget to help students have a better experience here, and hopefully also just have something really cool to show people whenever they're going on tour to help recruitment and retention efforts. So aside from the capital improvement projects, we want to increase student involvement, so we want to go on listening tours. I've just recently gotten a couple of our suggestion boxes going again. I emptied those out, and it was last checked in 2016.
Oh, my.
So I have a lot of those to go through, but I got it refilled. I got new pens and papers, so hopefully we can start hearing from the students again and start checking that a little more regularly. And then the final thing that we're focusing on is filling our liaison committees from Student Senate. We have a large number of committees that were really unknown to us for the longest time, but last year with the revision of our bylaws, we discovered a lot of those. So we're actively filling our spots on Faculty Senate, Staff Senate. There's a Student Conduct Appeals, Traffic Appeals, Library Committee, Academic Affairs, Academic Policy, and a number of other committees that we're actively trying to get a student voice on. So overall, the bottom line statement is that I'm very excited for this year. Students are very excited for the activities to be back and for campus to be returning. So I think it's going to be a great year, and again, I thank you all for having me.
Thanks, Mr. Olson. Governor Gibson has a question.
Where do you hail from?
I'm from the Osho, born and raised my entire life, so I'm local. My dad went to Southern, so I'm here.
Good.
That's great.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Olson? Okay, if there's not, we'll roll right into the committee reports, and we will first hear from our Personnel and Compensation Committee. We didn't meet this cycle, but I asked Governor Elliott to give us a report of the previous meeting.
Thank you. I'm pleased today to report that at our June meeting and announce today that the board voted unanimously to extend Dr. Van Galen's contract by 2 years from his original 3-year contract. And I'm going to preface the rest of my remarks with the phrase, so maybe I'll only use it once. Little did we know what kind of first year that Dr. Van Galen would be faced with. And we were so fortunate to have his leadership at Missouri Southern, and he demonstrated so many different things, a commitment to excellence, his generosity. He has a student-first approach. He has shown himself to be an inspirational and a very effective leader. And he has, you can tell the commitment level he has for our students and the faculty and the staff. And he's done so many collaborative things over the past year to bring this campus together in some of the toughest times that many of us older folks have witnessed, and can't imagine what it's like for students coming on campus and experiencing all the different things that have happened, and had so many things happen in this past year. And I want to compliment you, Dr. Van Galen, on the way you exhibited leadership for us. And one more, little did we know when we were going through the process of bringing you here that we were going to get a twofer. And I want to compliment Mary Van Galen for her role this past year, and really what an ambassador that she has become for Missouri Southern. And I know the board all feels the same. I can speak on behalf of the board that we want to thank her for her many contributions towards Missouri Southern, and we just so grateful that she's part of the Van Galen team that we all are getting to know and understand a lot better as the days go by. Thank you, Dr. Van Galen, for your leadership, and we want to congratulate you on the end of your first very successful year with all the adversity that we've had out in front of us, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Governor Elliott.
Also want to recognize that we voted at our June meeting to go into contract and hire a new interim counsel, and he's been introduced, John D. Hammonds, and John is part of a firm in Springfield. And John, is that Ellis, Hammonds, and Johnson?
That's right.
In Springfield. John's, of course, a member of Missouri Bar, where he's he's on the Labor Law Committee and the Healthcare Law Committee, and I noted that some of his past affiliation, he's been a member of the Society of Hospital Attorneys, where he chaired that society in 2001. Originally born in Sedalia, is that correct? Well, we want to welcome John again as our interim counsel, and board approved that again in June. And Madam Chairman, I think that's all I have for my report today.
Okay, thank you, Governor Elliott. That reminded me one thing I forgot about the foundation. They apparently appreciate Mrs. Van Galen also in their new committee on community engagement. Very important committee for that foundation. They've invited her, and she's agreed to serve on that committee for the foundation, and we appreciate that too. And I too want to thank Dr. Van Galen for not only agreeing to stay on 2 more years, but every time I've talked to him, seems really excited about the future of Missouri Southern. And so we appreciate that. Also on personnel compensation, Dr. Van Galen mentioned it, and but we did attend Governor Oplotnik as chair of the academic affairs and the personnel compensation chair, and I attended the tenure and promotion event recognizing our faculty members who gained tenure and promotion this last cycle. We approved them the last meeting, but there is a list to remind you of those honorees and the program from yesterday's event showing them. So if you see them around campus, congratulate them. And again, it was exciting, and I think it's a new tradition that wasn't had before, that's had at many campuses, and I think Dr. Van Galen has big plans to make it something special for our very special faculty. So now academic affairs. We had a meeting this morning. It's a little anticlimactic now that we all meet in the same room at the same time, but we'll listen to that report.
Sure. Thank you, Governor Hushaway. Academic affairs meeting we had this morning. We had just a couple of items on the agenda. We reviewed the new faculty for 21 and 22. And then we also had to approve the faculty handbook updates, which we all received a copy of the faculty handbook along with the updates. And Lorinda Hackett updated us with all of the changes to the faculty handbook. And so the Academic Affairs Committee did approve those, but we do need I will entertain a motion to approve the faculty handbook updates in the board meeting.
I think we do that. I'm learning my second year. I think we do that under new business. I think I got it wrong all last year, but we'll come back to you on new business, but it's good to know that the committee is recommending that, and that's the important step there.
And that's all we have from Academic Affairs.
Okay, then we will move to budget and audit.
Yes, thank you, Governor.
Oh, unless there's other questions about academic affairs from Governor Oplotnik. I think we were all here. Governor Haley.
Yes, thank you. Budget and audit did meet this morning. We also had a very brief agenda. Basically, we talked a little bit about the audit that is ongoing with BKD, then also bond refunding, which we will present later under new business to help save the university some money going forward on our bond refinancing. That is all that I have at this point.
Are there any other questions about the budget to Governor Haley at this time? And then we had one more committee, our ad hoc committee that we had last year for the pandemic that I may have mentioned last meeting that I wasn't going to rename that committee, but with the events towards the beginning of the summer, I changed my mind and did rename an ad hoc pandemic committee, the same members serving. I don't believe it has met, but Bill Gibson is chairing that again. And I'm very grateful to him that he has attended, I believe, all the task force meetings, the on-campus university task force, and it's kind of the board's ears there. And is there anything else about the pandemic committee we need to know?
No, you're right. I have been listening in on those task force meetings that Julie leads and Rob co-chairs, but nothing has risen to the level that I believe needs consideration by the pandemic committee or the Board of Governors.
And thanks to that task force, I know they did diligent work last year setting a framework, and it seems to be working if nothing's coming back to us to decide. And thank you for your ongoing work there. So that's all the committee. Is there any other old business that the board needs to consider today? Then we will move to new business. We have a presentation planned, and then we will need to consider the two motions that the committees have recommended.
Introduce to you Dr. Oliberry. She is an associate professor in our biology program, and also teaches classes for our YTL students. Her presentation title is Cadaver Lab, but that would just be the second, like, post-lunch topic that we should probably consider. I want to thank her for all she does for those programs and for her passion for her students. She serves as an advisor, academic advisor, for many of the students that would be participating in the degree program the board approved last year, the Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Sciences, the pre-dental, those types of program areas. And then I think it's important that I recognize her. She was a 2020 outstanding teacher here at Missouri Southern, and so we're very appreciative of her efforts and the excitement you're going to bring to the interesting topic of the Cadaver Lab. So thank you, Dr. Berry.
Thank you. Lorinda, thank you so much for introduction. It was a very long one. I just meant to say, my name is Ala Berry. I'm an associate professor at biology department, and I am a cadaver lab director. So I'm here to talk about anatomy program. The anatomy program at Missouri Southern that we're very proud of, because we believe it is very unique. So 10 years ago, and I want you to look actually at the PowerPoints, not at me. So 10 years ago, we installed Cadaver Lab on our campus with two major goals. First, we wanted to introduce prosected, it means dissected, already dissected cadavers in undergraduate anatomy courses. And the second one, we wanted to develop an advanced dissection course for pre-professional, highly motivated students. And today, I'm very happy to report that we accomplished both goals. Every anatomy course on our campus is cadaver-based course, and our students really appreciate this experience. They rated Cadaver Lab as the most helpful tool in studying and understanding anatomy. Along with great academic experience, we actually see a positive psychosocial impact of Cadaver Lab experience. One of our longitudinal studies assessed the willingness to be organ donor at the beginning of the course and upon the completion of the cadaver-based course. You see on the top here, this is the number of students who desired to donate their organs at the beginning of the semester and then after completion of the course. We had increased more than 90% in students who desired to donate their organs. So we made a conclusion. Being exposed to the selfless gift of the whole body donors makes us better people. So, advanced human dissection course, truly hands-on experience, an advanced exploration of the anatomy, human anatomy, designed to prepare our students for the professional schools. So it's a small class. We have only 16 students enrolled in the course. It actually provides us 4-to-1 ratio. We have 4 students dissecting 1 cadaver, which is pretty good ratio that allows every single student great dissection experience. We have very unique approach. We treat our whole body donors as patients, with goals during dissection to learn anatomy, but at the same time to identify pathology, to identify anatomical variations and their clinical significance, and to determine possible cause of death. So, in fact, the rhythm at the dissection lab is very similar to the rhythm of the clinical practice, through observation, assessment, and interpretation of findings to develop a diagnosis. So, before we're going to make a first cut, we take our cadavers to our radiology department for x-rays. That's what happens with us as patients. We admit to the hospital and physicians, they run our different diagnostic procedures. So in fact, our students, they have really great experience to learn and compare medical imaging with true appearance of the organs. Right now, you're looking at two images. It's anterior chest x-ray on the left side, on your left, and on the right side, the same whole body donor with open anterior thoracic wall. So students were able to see the true appearance of the organ. For example, the lung. Look at this hyperinflated lung on the right side, and they saw how it looks on the medical imaging. But on the left side, it was a question, why the lung is so small? Because we found out that increased heart, condition known as cardiomegaly, pushed on the left lung, and left lung pretty much collapsed. So we were able to compare true appearance of the organs with how these organs look on the medical imaging. First, and I'm going to give you a lesson. Do you see this? A circle right there. And students were wondering what it is, that circle. And we found out that it was severely calcified aorta, which is the major vessel in our body. So this year, we were able to take a step forward. And we want to thank Freeman Health System for providing us with the opportunity to CAT scan our cadavers before starting dissection. Special thanks to Katie Ball and Lisa Diadorf. So they were very helpful in explaining CAT scan imaging to our students. In fact, it was exactly a week ago, last Friday, early in the morning, we brought cadavers before actually patients started to come to Freeman Hospital. We were at the back door. So it was a great experience, and some of the students commented saying that it was the best thing that they ever seen. CAT scan, full body CAT scan, is really powerful diagnostic tool. So along with gross anatomy and medical imaging, histological analysis is a great tool in determining pathology. So students collect tissue samples, and then we analyze them under the microscope. That actually gives objective evidence of the disease process. So we were able precisely diagnose ovarian cancer, metastatic ovarian cancer that the patient died from, finding on the surface of the liver ovarian metastasis. So you can see right here, these are ovarian cells that should not present on the surface of the liver. So students, once again, they were able to diagnose metastatic ovarian cancer without presence of ovaries. We didn't find any reproductive organs within the pelvic cavity in this particular whole body donor. So another very interesting finding, we were able to diagnose multiple myeloma by finding special, MOT cells within the bone marrow. So histology is very difficult subject, and in fact, right at this moment when students are able to diagnose their patients' conditions, students really enjoy histology and learn pathology at the same time. So based on the results of assessment, medical imaging, histology, and of course dissection, students should identify medical conditions, determine possible cause of death, provide evidence, and understand disease process. And this results in the patient case presentation. So patient case presentation became really good event, when students, local physicians, medical students from KCU, they come and they listen to these presentations. COVID did not stop us. We were able to broadcast our presentations. So I just included this picture, it's post-presentation picture when everybody is happy, because, to present to the audience, it's actually pretty stressful. I feel it right now. So, and I just included this picture. It was 2017 presentation, and all of the students, they are currently in professional schools, medical, dental schools, all already graduated. So we're very happy that we actually contributed to their success. So what I'm trying to say, the dissection lab is not just the tool to learn anatomy. It is so much more. It develops team working skills, it develops professionalism, develops critical thinking skills, and it makes us better people. So, my statements could be nothing without data. We as scientists will like every opinion statement to be supported by numbers. And we asked our students to assess the effectiveness, our former students, to assess the effectiveness of dissection course. And look at these responses. All of the 36 students, our former students, who were currently attending or graduated from professional schools, they believe that this class really affected positively their their grades in professional schools, and clinical component was very helpful. So the expansion of the cadaver lab, and we went from 2 cadavers 10 years ago. In fact, I think I forgot to say that this fall we're celebrating 10th anniversary of the cadaver lab. So we went from 2 cadavers to 8. So we were able to develop anatomical research, and we became really active members of American Association of Clinical Anatomists. We presented more than 20 studies during conferences at these associations. But the one I want to brag about is the study that received recognition from Federation of Anatomists in London in 2019. In fact, I have to say that it was the first American institution of this size that received this kind of award. So we're very proud of our students, and we're proud of ourselves too. So to understand how modern medicine evolved, it is essential to learn the history of medicine and anatomy. And the best country to learn history of medicine and anatomy is Italy. That's how the idea of anatomical Italy trip actually came. So the first trip was in 2018. Once again, it was great experience in learning anatomy and history of medicine, but at the same time, it was the great experience, international experience for the students. I hope that we will be able to go back next year. So upcoming projects, I strongly believe that portable ultrasound machine will become a stethoscope of the physician in the 21st century. So we want to introduce ultrasonography in our anatomy education, and it will definitely help the research as well. So I submitted the proposal for this expensive ultrasound machine, but it's really nice quality. I hope I will be approved. Yeah. So another project that was put on hold, Artful Medicine Symposium. where art, medicine, and education intersect. So a great project. We're planning to actually to have it in April 2022. So I hope we're not going to have any problems with having this event on campus. So, and before I'm going to ask you questions, I want to invite you to the Cadaver Lab, and I want you to listen to our students' testimonies.
Our patients are teaching us. We get to learn so much from coming here.
They're so selfless. Their act of donating their body is so selfless. We want to really showcase that by treating them with respect.
The first time I set foot in this cadaver lab was actually while I was still in high school. I was here on a track visit and they brought me into this lab. And that's a huge reason why I'm at this school right now, was this opportunity.
You know, I know of other schools where their undergraduate students get to see the prosected cadavers, but you just learn it so much better whenever you're the one finding all these structures.
I've talked to other friends that have gone to different schools that I went to high school with, and they've taken anatomy and they don't have this opportunity, and they learn out of a book. And I realized how grateful I am to have this experience, because it's not just about learning anatomy, it's about the experience of actually dissecting and figuring out the anatomy for yourself and not only through a textbook.
It's more than textbooks. I mean, you learn a lot in textbooks throughout all your courses, and once you get here, it's really just putting them all together. It ties every subject that you've taken thus far, and it really helps you understand, because you've known, you've memorized, and you've learned a lot of stuff from other classes, but being here and dissecting and really going through the process, it helps you connect everything and truly understand it, opposed to just knowing it.
We treat them like patients so that we can connect with them better, and also so we're able to present about them and really fulfill their legacy.
You realize that you've become, not an expert, but you've become definitely more familiar than probably 95% of people in that room with what you're talking about, at least when it comes to the students. And so it's something to be really proud of.
You're in this cadaver lab all year long, and you're around all these groups and their cadavers, but you never truly understand what's going on with their body. You're focused on your own. So being able to sit there and understand and listen to the other lives within the room is super cool.
It's a really big piece of pride for, I think, the campus in general, because you go to different anatomy courses in colleges nearby, and they don't have something like this or to this grade. And so you kind of be like, I am getting a very quality education when it comes to anatomy. I'm getting very fundamental and full, just complete view of anatomy.
Undergrads don't really get the opportunity to even be in cadaver labs very much less actually do the dissecting. So I know for track, I looked around at schools a lot, and this was the only school that had an opportunity like this.
All right, and thank you for listening. Thank you. So any questions?
Are there any questions for Dr. Berry?
I have a question. Which students will be able to take your course? Is it only medical students or?
No, we have pretty much, the interest in this course for the students, pre-med, pre-dental, pre-physical therapy, pre-physician assistant, any pre-professional students who planning to go to school where anatomy is required and cadaver course most of the time is required. So this is, the population which is our target. They feel more confident in the cadaver labs in the professional schools. But once again, we don't limit it. It's just prerequisite anatomy and physiology for this course. So anyone who wants to have this experience and have prerequisite human anatomy, which is 200 level course, can take dissection course.
Do you have to turn students away that because of limitation of space in the class?
Unfortunately, yes, but it's only due to GPA. We have actual requirements for this course. It's application procedure, and the course is pretty difficult. It's very similar to the medical school human anatomy course. That's why we just don't want the students to fail. And unfortunately, with low GPA, the student will be just lost in the course, and we don't encourage them to take it. But yes, unfortunately, it happens. But we're trying really hard to satisfy everyone's applications. Yes.
Available to a lot of undergrads. Any idea how many schools within our region, similar size to Missouri Southern, that have a cadaver lab?
I tried to find this answer. I did not find it through Googling, but yes, unfortunately. But what I know that 5% of students who got accepted in medical schools, they have previous cadaver lab experience, not dissection, just, being exposed to cadavers. It's only 5%. One of our students who was outstanding graduate last year, Nathan Picali, he is in RCOM med school right now, and DO school, osteopathic medicine school, and he is only one out of 100 students who have cadaver lab experience.
Thank you.
What's the price tag on the 21st century stethoscope?
$30,000, actually $29,300, yes.
Now, that's
And
not a board level
with all
decision.
probes, yeah, I was prepared.
Do you think you can get them to come down like maybe a couple $1,000s?
It's with the discount.
Well, thank you, Dr. Berry.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well, now we do have two more pieces of work to do under new business, and that is to approve the resolutions sent to the full board by the committees. And the first is from the Academic Affairs Committee, and it is a resolution to approve the handbook. And any questions for Governor Oplotnik or Ms. Hackett, or I will entertain a motion.
Move we approve the faculty handbook.
I have a motion by Governor Rosenberg. Is there a second? A second by Governor Morgan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion then passes and the handbook is approved. The next is the bond refinancing resolution as discussed and recommended by the Budget and Audit Committee. If there's any questions or further discussion about that, for Governor Haley, or I would entertain a motion. You might want to read it, the motion.
Yes. I will read the full motion so everyone will have a understanding of it. Authorizing and directing the issuance of not to exceed $24 million principal amount of auxiliary enterprise system revenue bonds, Series 2021, to provide funds to refund certain outstanding obligations of the university, prescribing the form and details of said bonds and the covenants and agreements made by the university to provide for the payment and security thereof, and prescribing other matters relating thereto. So that is the motion that were put on the table from Budget and Audit.
So I have a motion made by Governor Haley and a second by Governor Gibson. Is there any further discussion about that or questions? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. As a matter of housekeeping, as we I previewed in the Budget and Audit meeting, I understand from Ms. Ice, there's a window of time expected to be somewhere Wednesday or Thursday next week where a signature will be needed rather quickly from the board to finalize the refinancing of these bonds. I won't be available as board chair, so we need to authorize someone as a board to sign for us, and I would propose, and he's agreed that he would be available, Governor Haley, as he serves on the parameters committee, and he's our budget chair, as you know. And I would ask for a motion of the board to authorize Governor Haley to sign on behalf of the board next week.
So, I'll second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, Governor Haley, for doing that. So that was Elliott and Oplotnik. Are there any other items that need to come before the board in open session today? I don't think there's any. Our future meeting dates are down there, and Dr. Van Galen mentioned it, but you have in the paper the homecoming events coming up 2 weeks from now. So not only the board alumni that are alumni, but others are welcome to attend any of those. And Ms. Conley, I think, can help you navigate and parking and all that. So the parade's going to be downtown. There is need, again, to meet in closed session today. Council has advised that the topics that we need to discuss are appropriate to discuss in closed session as they pertain to RSMO 610-021, subsections 1 and 3, having to do with legal matters and personnel. We will need a roll call vote to go into closed session.
Yes.
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 Marianne Morgan, Anita Oplotnik,
Yes?
Ron Richard, and Dr. Rosenberg.
Yes.
So we'll move into closed session, and that is in BSC 343. Okay, so we'll meet you in there in just a few minutes. Thank you. Thank you for everybody.